Hey,
How are you
okay.
doing? You hear me okay?
Good. Yeah, I can hear you. That's the important thing.
Yes, yes. Okay, so this is our 17th niche conversation. I'm Jessica DeWitt. I'm one of the editors here at the Network in Canadian History and Environment. And today I'm joined by Rachel Black. You want to tell us more about yourself?
Definitely. So, my name is Rachel. I'm the project coordinator at DRAW, the Data Rescue Archives and Weather Project. I'm a trained archivist from McGill University, the McGill School of Information Studies. I graduated in 2018. And my main focus at DRAW with the project is coordinating activities behind the scenes. I'm the one who runs the meetings and kind of organizes all of our activities, as well as outreach, such as instructional webinars about how to transcribe with us, newsletters, blog posts, and then I also keep the website up to date as my best of my ability, of course.
Awesome. I do a lot of that stuff for other projects as well, so I know the behind the scenes. It's really important and I really enjoy it personally.
Yeah.
So I invited you here today because last week we started our niche partnership with Draw McGill by starting off with a profile of the project, the basic overview of what's going on over there. And we're going to expand upon that today. So I thought we'd just start with if you could just talk about the data rescue and archives and weather project and just kind of a brief overview of what it is.
Yeah, definitely. So it's an interdisciplinary open source research project. It involves researchers and students from McGill University, particularly, and it's a wide variety of faculties. So there's the Faculty of Science, for example, with atmospheric and oceanic sciences, geography, environment. We've got the arts, for example, most particularly SIS, the School of Information Studies, as well, is involved. And then also the library and the archives on campus as well, because the ledgers that we take our pages from are housed at the McGill University Archives, which falls under the library at McGill. The project was conceived in, I believe, 2015, and it really got going in 2016. And it was all spearheaded by Dr. Victoria Slonowski. She's one of our de facto leads. She's a historical climatologist, very good at what she does. And so she really thought about this idea of rescuing this data. So our aim is to make the meteorological observations from the McGill Observatory, which was founded in 1863 by Dr. Charles Smallwood, digitally available for scientific analysis. So we ask volunteers to help transcribe these pages because of how much there is, and we use a custom web-based platform to do so. And so at the same time, we're trying to preserve the historical and archival integrity of these pages, because when you digitize things, unless you make sure you know where it came from, you could lose that connection. And it's really important not to just know what's in the ledgers, the actual data points, but also to know where it came from. Because knowing what happened at the time when they were transcribing, like actually writing these down, can kind of tell you what's going on. So if you know, for example, that a weather system came through, for example, I believe it's 1807 is one of the coldest summers on record. If you know that, you can understand what's going on maybe socially. There's not going to be very many summer activities, for example, or, maybe there's something politically going on as well. You have that external context that helps you understand. And so knowing where those records are from, maybe what type of paper they were on, etc., can really help you broaden your understanding. So the ledgers that we work with are 100 years. 1863 to 1963, because unfortunately in 1963 they made the decision to tear down the observatory and they put up what's called the Leacock building in its stead on campus, which still stands today. It's currently under construction, like most things in Montreal. Yeah, so that is draw kind of in a really quick snapshot.
Yeah, I appreciate your description, and I really love the interdisciplinary nature of the project, and particularly when we're speaking with students or people outside of academia, people assume that we kind of work by ourselves, like historians only work as historians, and this kind of project just really shows how we can learn something from everyone, that everyone has something to bring to the table and
Yeah.
add different angles so that we can fully understand the subject. And that's one thing I love about being an environmental historian is that even though I'm trained in the humanities, I regularly get to think about science and
Hmm.
ecology and, read that literature, engage with it, engage people that are in those fields.
Yeah.
Um, so the
Yeah.
heart of this project, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to stop
Well,
before.
it's a big part of it too is just the background, because we're
Mm-hmm.
not just only getting people to transcribe this data, but we're going to then process it. We're going to make sure that it's
Mm-hmm.
accurate, make sure
Yeah.
that the data makes sense that we're seeing, and that takes a lot of scientific analysis, but also some understanding of databases and kind of the IT side. And then
Yeah.
we need to make sure that we have what's called metadata available as well, so we know what is there and can accurately describe it, saying that,
Mm-hmm.
vapor pressure is this thing and it, falls within these ranges, for example. So that's where a lot of archival knowledge comes in
Yeah.
as well with our archivist colleagues, because we need to be able to have metadata documentation and understanding to really expand. Sorry about jumping in there.
No, no,
I thought of it.
that's my no. Yeah, metadata is something that we often don't think about. It's so crucial with these digitization projects because
Mm-hmm.
without it, it's almost not useful.
Yeah.
Like to the average person who's going to be using it for research or what have you. Um,
Yeah. Our
so
file names are exactly like that. They have all the information regarding where it was from, what the dates were, etc., so that we have a quick understanding of, oh, this is a page from 1895, July. It's from this logbook, this register, this accession, etc.
yeah,
It's really useful that way, and it's
hmm
very important.
exceptionally, yeah. So the heart of the project seems to be citizen science.
Mhm.
And this is kind of a term that I've been seeing pop up more lately in the last several years. So I thought if you could kind of define what citizen science is and perhaps how DRAW is using it in the project.
Definitely. So citizen science can also be shortened to CitSci, which is a very common tag that you see in headings. We as well use it in our meetings. So it's a mouthful to say otherwise, citizen science. So it's a public participation and collaboration, usually with individuals who have no background in science, and they contribute to scientific research. And this can be passive or active. So you're actively working with us to transcribe this data, but maybe it could be passive where you've contributed something like photographs of the universe and someone else is going to do the analysis on them, or photographs of birds or animals. There's a number of different citizen science projects out there. Whatever floats your boat, you can find it probably. And so it's also a really good example of crowdsourcing. So citizen science, particularly our method, uses individuals. We enlist individuals over the internet, and they're unpaid in our case. Maybe they could be paid. And the whole idea is to complete a task. You just want to get something done, and manpower is really, really useful and successful. It's something that we note a lot when you look at the sciences and even the arts. Funding can be very sparse. And so as a result, you turn more and more to citizen science because you can get unpaid volunteers who are really passionate and interested to really contribute to a project. And citizen science was used by DRAW on one side because of the enormity of the task, but on the other side, we have researchers who were really interested in how to use citizen science. Could it be used in this kind of technical scientific task? Could it be used how, for example, education is one aspect that some of our colleagues were interested in, is how successful can you use citizen science to teach about scientific practices or the history of climate or the environment. So it's kind of like one part, the task is huge, and the other part is just we have professional interest in it, in how to use citizen science. And so the big thing, like I said, is the task. So as I said, it's 100 years of recording. They recorded up to 8 times a day. Usually the average is about 9 for the really earlier stuff. And then that's 40 or more individual elements. So 40 or more columns per day per 9, say, times a day, ranging from 1:48 usually until about 11:48 in the evening. So it's all there. And then this was hundreds of register books, like so many, and then tens of thousands of pages. So I think the estimate was that with these millions of observations, it would take at least upwards of 45,000 man hours for a single person. Yeah, so which is really amazing too as well. The project really started getting organized in 2016, and we, of course, as a research project, we did a lot of kind of investigation of how this will work. Does this method work? Does this not? You know, user testing to really see the best way to do things, which is how one of our elements, when you record cloud type, you get a drop-down menu of images. So you can compare what you see on the page to what's in the drop-down menu, for example, for cumulus clouds. So we kind of developed that as a way of trying to show people, and we got this information from these user kind of interactions. And so, oh, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, I hate it when I do that. Okay. Millions of observations. Oh, I've completely lost that. I hate that. 45,000 hours. Oh, so as I said, it started off slow, but we've really gained traction in the past, say, 2 or 3 years, and we've just hit the 1 million observations mark. And I believe that's only about maybe 5,000 pages. I'd have to double check our stats, but that's only about 5,000 finished of these, we think, tens of thousands of pages. So it's a lot of information to go through. And citizen science is what really helps us get this done. Because, as I said, funding is often limited. And so being able to leverage citizens who are really interested in this can really allow us to get this project completed and get this information out there, because it's currently locked in handwritten analog format, and you can't really easily analyze that through, say, Excel or any of the other kind of text analysis programs out there. I've only used Excel myself because I'm very basically, I'm an archivist, but I know that there's more fancy kind of programs out there. So it's really, it helps us kind of expand. And there was another point I wanted to make. Oh, I can't remember. It'll come up again.
Okay. Wow, those numbers that you provided are really impressive. Like, it's so, wow, the task you're doing is incredible. And to hit 1 million, like, even that is kind of
January.
unfathomable to me.
Yeah,
So,
it's fantastic.
very
Yeah,
cool.
we've really upped our kind of outreach to community organizations, whether or not they're just, say, for example, 50 plus kind of community organizations, or they're like NiCHE, where we've got a kind of similar interest. We've expanded into classrooms just a little bit because one of the archivists teaches, and so we've been able to kind of use DRAW, because DRAW is not just a citizen science, it's also citizen archivist, because we're using the archives and that archival material, and it's a type of participatory archive where the community helps create it or engage with it or promote it. So it's that kind of thing as well. So we've really tried to expand to get more users, to really engage with our users. The newsletter I mentioned started last fall. We launched it on the first day of fall. And then we had one in the winter as well in December, first day of winter. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll be launching our spring 2021, first day of spring newsletter. So we've really tried to make overtures to people in the community because, as I said, the more interested individuals we have, the more likely we'll be successful and we'll actually go forwards and complete those tens of thousands, millions of observations.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that community-based approach. It's really beautiful. It's something I'm very passionate about with my work at NiCHE, is creating community and getting out into the public and whatnot. And also, I think I I can see a really good value of bringing this into the classroom and having it as an exercise for students to kind of see what
Yeah,
documents look like. And yeah.
yeah, we did it a little bit prior to my involvement with the project. We engaged with a teacher at Dawson College, CEGEP Dawson College, and we have a curriculum book up on our website that people can take and use themselves or use for inspiration for that level. And so unfortunately, most of us are volunteers behind the scenes, and so we don't have the ability to really actively engage and work with teachers all the time to do this kind of work. So we've also put up on our website an Educator's Corner. And this place has resources like our curriculum book or a timeline of some events that you can take inspiration from, whether they're extreme weather or maybe some socio-political events. I'm working on a people timeline to add to that of notable meteorologists that helped inform Montreal and McGill's particular path through observing weather. And then, as I said, also there's resources based on themes, floods, winter activities. There was a blog post that came out on our website yesterday about winter activities in Montreal, like curling and skating and tobogganing and things like that. So we're trying to engage with the educational community that way, having these resources as a one-stop shop where they can maybe access and get in ideas, and then go on and build their own kind of curricula from that, lesson plans. And then maybe someday we'll have the manpower and the funding that we can actually really get deep dived into educational kind of lesson plans. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. So you touched on it a bit, but I thought we'd close it up, the conversation, by maybe talking a bit about more why transcribing these weather records is valuable and how this information will potentially be used in the future.
So one of the most obvious ones is climate change. Understanding what happened in the past can help us inform what's happening now or going to happen in the future. With this data locked away in these books, you can't actively see if claims that the weather is getting worse or better is actually true. And so having this data set available, it's going to be open source, which means that you should be able to access it no matter what, and no pay or anything like that. So scientists can then use this data set, perform analysis, see what was happening, and then go forward to maybe use it to model current predictions or understand and compare what's been going on in our weather, like the freak snowstorm in Texas. Like seeing and understanding that way and having this data is really useful for that. And there's a gap. So Dr. Slonosky does this stuff professionally, of course. She wrote a very fantastic book called Climate in the Age of Empire. And one of the images that she provides is it shows I think it's like a pictograph or a table of some sort that shows the difference, like all the weather observations we have for particularly the St. Lawrence Valley basin area, which is where Montreal is. And there's a gap right smack between those 1863 and 1963. Pretty much right there is a gap of our information about the weather of that time period. We have ahead of time and we have after, of course, but we don't have that information. And that information can help provide context about what's been going on, as I said, historically or for modern day. So very obvious. It's understanding like extreme or high impact events, natural hazards, and that can affect society and infrastructure. So it's not a great illusion, but knowing about what happened in the past can help, say, insurance companies even know what's going on and inform better practices that way. Don't like insurance companies, but you know what I mean. It can have that kind of thing. And then it allows also researchers to analyze citizen science participation, motivation, and accuracy. A lot of the papers that draw researchers have created have been based on that kind of thing. Understanding the evaluating the durability and flexibility of our database. So that kind of IT stuff, going back to this interdisciplinarity, really understanding like the different ways it can affect and have value. Also considering how it can be applied to archival data sets. It's not just weather data sets, technical information, data points, numbers that are locked away in these books. There's letters, there's, all different kinds of textual information that are just hiding and waiting to be discovered. I'm sure you heard the news about that locked leather, the one that they found. They didn't want to unravel, but they used technology to read. It's things like that where we are helping to inform maybe new accessibility and access for the public as well. So there's all different kinds of value. There's also the value of helping inform people about science. So in September, there's Science Literacy Week. We helped participate in that last year. We're going to do so again this year, which is really exciting. And it's really kind of trying to engage the public, the community at large in science so that they do care about these topics going forward. Or if you, as I said, we'd love to get back into the education stream. If you hit a certain age group, I believe the younger years, and really engage them in science, maybe they'll be interested in pursuing it as a field. Maybe they'll be really interested in going further or exploring the different topics out there, or STEM, for example, even really kind of engaging that way as well. So citizen science can really help that way, especially because there's so many different projects. I believe there's one here in Montreal in one of the boroughs about trees. And I know that there's a massive one in Ontario regarding turtles because they're quite endangered in parts, as well as I think there's ones across North America for bird watching and like identifying species. So it doesn't have to necessarily be weather, and it doesn't have to be North American weather. In the UK, for example, they've got ship logs for the Navy, which is really interesting. Weather at sea, like it's unbelievable what's out there. And as I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be science either. You can access that more cultural part. Library and Archives Canada has Project Naming, which is a fantastic kind of crowdsourcing project where they're actively trying to identify people from old photos from like the 50s, particularly with their Indigenous populations, and update their captions that way. So there's all different ways of going, and it all helps inform and kind of better equip us for the future of whatever happens, whether it's weather or anything like that, cultural. And then for our set, particularly about the information about what the data set's going to be used for, as I said, it'll be for analysis or research. And like I said, it's open source. So currently, if you are a transcriber on the platform, you can actually, at the moment, it's only available per page. So we don't have the whole thing, of course, available. But every page that you've transcribed and completed, you can download as either a CSV, a comma separated values, or a JSON, which I don't know what the short form, the long form for that is. But you can download a file of your own and do analysis if you like. Or you can contact us, and I don't know if it's publicly available, but because we're still in the middle of everything, but I'm sure that we can work things out. We've had that happen where individuals are wanting specific dates that are not up yet, Christmas in the 50s, for example, and we can find those pages and work things out that way. But this data will be then available publicly and openly. The goal is that once it's been processed, every value has been looked at, we've confirmed illegible values or issues. Validity, for example, is a big thing, which I believe some of the reports that we've looked at about our data is 96.4% validity, I think, for our transcribing, which is amazing because it's all citizen scientists. So all that information, once it's been kind of cleaned up, will be available as a data set. That is how it'll be used, I guess. That's a lot of information, sorry.
It is, but it was good. Like I've learned so much more about Draw. Like I've been aware of you all for a while now, but I learned a lot from this conversation. I learned a lot about citizen science, and that's what it's all about. This is what this
I'm glad.
is supposed to achieve. So I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. This was fantastic.
Oh, of course. I'm glad to be here. As I said, this is one of my prime foci for Draw is outreach, engaging with community in whatever way. And I really encourage anybody who's watching or listening in the future or right now to join and join us on the struggle and the mission to transcribe this data and get it out there.
Great. Yeah, check out their website, check out their post on our website,
Yeah.
and look for more to come. Yeah,
Yes, most
thank
definitely.
you. Take care, Rachel.
You too. Have a good day. Bye.